Hey folks, so I gotta open up the bar and talk about this week's My Hero chapter, because while the series was delayed due to the Olympics, we still have about a week and a half till the next chapter. Now I don't know if spoilers are gonna be a thing tonight or not, because I know people will go to some crazy extents to find out what's gonna happen next week. Regardless, I'm keeping up with my Wednesday My Hero Academia videos. Come through this weekend though, I'm dropping a video Saturday night that hopefully will surprise you. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, that way you never miss when it premieres. Enough of that though, we got chapter 322 to go over, so let's head inside and grab ourselves a drink. Alright, welcome to the bar. So like I said during last week's theory video, I had a feeling that this week's chapter was gonna be the end of the Deku retrieval arc. Not only was that the case, but we finally have the conversation that takes place between Deku and Bakugo. Like, the conversation that we've been waiting for since he told Deku to go die. In addition to that conversation, we'll also address the fact that the UA barrier makes its appearance. And finally, we'll talk about our girl Achako and why I think she's gonna be the one to give the speech to the people inhabiting UA. And if you've been keeping up with my videos, you know that I've been waiting for the moment that the community just straight up looks at Deku and goes, no, you're not allowed to be with us, you're a liability, we don't want to die. So let's head over to the wall and discuss what happened in chapter 322, and along the way, I'll throw out some theories about what I think might happen in chapter 323. Okay, real quick, before I start rambling on about how Deku and Bakugo's conversation is definitive proof of Bakugo's character growth, let's give it up for Kirishima finding a way to be useful in the final moments of this arc's climax. His involvement is something that you really have to pay attention to across 2 chapters or else you'll miss it. But yeah, seeing Kirishima shine one last time, followed by Mina crying her eyes out while channeling her thoughts on losing Midnight, my emotions were already getting beaten up. This moment moved me to tears, cause this is the moment where Bakugo spills his guts out to Deku and it becomes the moment that helps bring our boy back from the dark side. But if anybody gives me any shit and says that Bakugo has 0 character development, this is the scene that I'm gonna point to from now on. From the panels of them flashing throughout the years to Bakugo actually saying I'm sorry, this was one of the best scenes in My Hero Academia and was one hell of a way to end the arc. I always used to joke around and say that Bakugo better have one hell of an apology lined up, and man, yeah, that's one for the record books, because right after he apologizes to Deku, he reinforces one thing, that there's nothing wrong with the path that he's been walking. But what he's trying to get across to his friend is that when he is down, the villains win. But when they work together instead of against one another, they save more people. And sometimes you gotta save people to win. But with that moment, Class 1A is able to break through to their friend. And if there's one thing that I will say, it's that this was a team effort on Class 1A's part. While some people had smaller roles than others, most of the characters had a really strong connection with Deku and spoke their piece. This was very well written in juxtaposition to the Sasuke retrieval arc, but when you think about it from that perspective, most of the Genin really had nothing nice to say about Sasuke. Sasuke was an asshole throughout the entire series of Naruto. I mean, let's think about it real quick. Horikoshi definitely grew up reading Naruto, and if I were to headcanon the shit out of this, I would say that this arc was one gigantic homage to the Sasuke retrieval arc. Except this time, Horikoshi puts his own unique spin on the retrieval arc and in turn creates this masterpiece. And look, enough of the Naruto analogies. This moment was Class 1A helping Deku realize that this is a crusade that would have ended with him being dead or captured, and their words are just enough for Deku to buckle and fall into his best friend's arms. And when Deku awakes, he awakes to not only a maskless 13, but 13 starts telling him the situation immediately. Doesn't even ask if he's okay, immediately starts telling him the situation and says that the police and heroes have picked up the slack since he's been out. Because now that he's rested just a little bit, she has to do her job and alleviate any reason for Deku wanting to make a break for it. Because when he finally comes to, he realizes that he's standing in front of the UA barrier. And first off, when I said the barrier being introduced in Act 1 and being seen in Act 3 was going to be a thing, I totally didn't think it was going to happen the next chapter. What I wasn't expecting though was the outer surroundings of the UA barrier looking like a prison. And before Deku slips away into, oh god, if All For One figures out I'm back at UA, everyone here is boned, we see that Mina mentions that the school can possibly combine with Shiketsu Shiketsu. Look, if Yue ends up Megazording with Shiketsu High, I will lose my damn mind. Mostly because I would love to see how Horikoshi draws a mech fight. Either way, the door opens up to welcome the kids back to Yue, and there's people on the other side already protesting Deku's return. See, a few months back, I made a video about how Deku could be expelled from Yue because of what was going on during the war arc. Essentially, what I was working towards was the fact that his secret is more or less gone to the masses. Everybody knows that Shigaraki was hunting down a student at UA, and considering every single student at UA is put underneath a microscope, it probably only took a day or two before the people taking refuge inside of UA were like, where's that Deku kid at? So their adherence to not letting him in, it's justified. And even Deku understands that. Deku's mental health is absolute dog shit right now, and if anyone decides to reinforce his current mindset, he'll go with it, meaning if he hears those people telling him to fuck off, he'll attempt to do just that. Enter Uravity. A very long time ago, this character pocketed her affection for Deku. Her goal was to become a hero and provide for her family. Her family has struggled through so much financially that when it came time for her to choose her future profession, she actually chose the one that would try to better her parents' financial situation. So when she sees somebody that she has affection for steeped so low, she can't help but reach out and grab Deku by the hand. She looks at Deku and tells him that it's okay. But then she internalizes that when heroes need protecting, who will be there to protect them? So what I think is going to happen in chapter 323 is that Ochako is going to walk up to President Mike and she's going to take that megaphone and she's going to start preaching to the crowd. Someone needs to speak on Deku's behalf. Mistrust in the heroes is running rampant, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if the traitor is residing within UA and is the person spreading discontent amongst the community hiding within its walls. For an entire mob to show up to voice their disdain, it had to have been organized to some extent. The traitor, if they do exist, is doing a fantastic job of staying hidden and sowing seeds of deception. The next step of Class 1A is to win the affections of the community living within UA, because it's probably safe to say that the ones that are living within UA are the ones that have the most faith in the heroic community. People are already upset that they left behind their belongings and their entire homes because of this incident. They were all guaranteed safety by the principal, so by having Deku within the walls of UA, some do think that he's just a ticking time bomb. And they're not wrong, you know? If you're all for one and you know that Deku is at UA, why not gather up all your Nomus and your remaining forces and just go take over UA? The logical move for the heroes is to move quickly from here on out. You gotta get the community on your side, get Deku rested and re-equipped, weed out the traitor, and secure a plan that branches to all for one. But the first big hurdle is gonna be the community. Every chapter it feels like they've spoken about anti-hero sentiments or the fact that vigilantism is running rampant once again. So it's gonna take some talking to, because the heroes really haven't proven themselves trustworthy in the past year or so. And I really think that every single student has done their part to help break through to Deku, but it's gonna fall on the shoulders of Ochako to talk to the masses. Everyone spoke to Deku, and she will be the one to speak on behalf of Deku. He doesn't have any energy to defend himself. Not that he would want to speak on his own behalf. He doesn't even want to be there either. He knows that he's a gigantic target, so Uravity is gonna have to step up and restore faith to everyone. But yeah, chapter 322 was a solid chapter with plenty of development. I love the fact that we can call Bakugo a developed character now. As a character, he's come a long way from his first introduction. That apology was 100% what we all needed to see from him, because it was getting to a point where some of us thought that the apology wasn't even gonna come. As for people bugging out about the traitor recently, I'm still open to theories that one of the kids in Class 1A could be the traitor, but I'm still in the camp of it being one of the lesser known characters that's been sitting underneath our noses the entire time. Like, imagine if it was Recovery Girl. We would have to be sus of every single old person ever in this series. But I think one of the telling signs that can go either way, meaning that it could be one of the kids in Class 1A or it could be one of the people living within the community at UA, is that mob showed up at the very end behind the UA barrier. Either UA is ridiculously transparent with who they let in within their walls, or somebody let something leak. So my big theory for chapter 323 is I think Uravity is gonna stand up and fight for Deku. But hopefully after all of this has been developed, we go back to the villains for a little bit and see what they're scheming. So, if you think that Ochako is going to be the one to take on a disgruntled group of boomers, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And if you think it's time for us to see what the villains are up to, be sure to let me know down there as well. Remember, there's still that whole conversation with Stain and All Might that we haven't seen yet, so there's that as well. Either way, just let me know what you're most excited to see. And until next time, I'll catch y'all later. Cheers!